right, good morning, everybody. I think we all have a big stage to follow, but let's start with some quick introductions.
Hello, I am Crystal Ivey. I lead our brand category for Menstrual at the Honey Pot Company. The Honey Pot Company has been around for about 12 years. We actually initially started in the wash wipe category. In 2019 is when we introduced our Menstrual SKUs, and that actually is now our biggest category that we have within the company. We are better for you menstrual care, also just feminine care product in general, and we are the fastest growing and #1 better for you menstrual care.
Amazing. Hi, I'm Kenzie Steel. I'm the head of marketing and brand strategy at Daily Crunch Snacks. So I was actually first employee with the company. They launched in March of 2020. Great time to launch a company. And so they are sprouted nut snacks. So what that means is they soak them overnight, they expand in size, and they dehydrate them so they have this really unique crunch. They have almonds are our hero, but we also have walnuts and cashews. And we just launched in Whole Foods in November with, I know we're talking about innovation, so one of our partnerships with Fly by Jing, which is sweet and spicy Sichuan. But yeah, I've been there from the very beginning, so I always tell everybody I can answer every question that my founder can.
I'm gonna pause for a second and give Kenzie a huge round of applause. She is coming off of her bachelorette party, you guys. I mean, not all heroes wear capes, but to come from your own bachelorette party to a conference, like that takes some commitment.
Yeah, a lot of coffee this morning, but we are also based here in Nashville, so I will say I got home last night and was able to sleep in my own bed and then woke up this morning and got here, so I appreciate that. I did bring Daily Crunch for everybody outside to try.
Ian.
Hey, my name is Ian Wishingrad. I'm the founder and CMO of 3 Wishes cereal, which is a better-for-you breakfast cereal brand. Tastes naughty, made healthy, and sort of available everywhere.
Tastes naughty?
Yeah. I mean, so traditional cereal, everyone knows, is like not good for you and loaded with sugar. So the idea is when you're able to create something that tastes sugary with having very little sugar and made with like clean, healthy, protein-dense ingredients, that's a good formula.
And naughty was the word that you landed on.
You know what's funny? I had like 3 margaritas last night, and then someone was asking me, and I started to test this. I built 3 Wishes out of my creative agency, so I usually write taglines when we're having a debate internally. We don't have a tagline. So I started throwing it out, and I think it was working, so I'm testing it. Maybe not. My wife's my co-founder. I haven't run this one by her. She might kill this one, but the one we were working with before is for children of all ages.
It has a good mouthfeel. It has a good mouthfeel. Yeah, I'm going to chew on that for a little bit. All right, so how do y'all define innovation, and what does that look like in practice at your company?
I think at the Honey Pot Company, one of the things that we like to innovate on is product. I think just being in the better for you category, where that's where we see all of the growth happening. Also a space where a lot of people are getting a lot more curious. So we actually got a chance, and I didn't say this at the beginning, but the Honey Pot Company, what makes us unique in our better for you category is we do have our herbal infused pads. And so one of the things that we did earlier this year in April was launch a new herbal blend in our pads. And so that hit markets in April, so that's super exciting. But I also will say outside of product innovation, we do a lot of innovation around process. It's a smaller growing company, so there are just a lot of processes that we need to kind of like bring into the companies in order to allow us to operate efficiently, effectively, things of that nature. So that is a space that we are probably expanding and innovating a lot more so than even just innovation around product.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Crystal a lot on the innovating around our process, just like how we're working as a team. I mean, we're a team of 6, so it's a lot of process needs to be put in place, but also a lot of autonomy. But as far as it goes for product, our innovation goes from sizes to like different pack sizes to different variety packs, but also flavor. So that's always going to be the most digestible innovation, I think, as our team and with our consumers, is they always want something new. So we're always innovating when it comes to flavor. And one thing that's been working really well for us is innovating on partnerships. So as a nut, we're very versatile on what we can put on it and how we can make it through our process. And so that's opened up to expand to new audiences a lot. So with this Fly by Jing and then some I can't speak on yet, that we can launch and get us into new retail doors, or just expand in the retail that we're at right now with innovation that might only be an exclusive at those retailers.
Kenzie, what's your favorite flavor?
My favorite flavor is dill pickle, and I will say that because I started it in my air fryer. It was my idea. It was I really wanted to expand it with. I was obviously looking at trend reports and all the things that a marketer does, but at the end of the day, I was like, people love dill pickle or they don't. But we found it's become our best-selling flavor, and I think actually testing out the flavor in my kitchen. And I am not a cook, but that was really exciting. So I think that's probably my favorite flavor, but I love all of them, of course.
Yeah. Ian, you have a fully remote team. Crystal, I think you guys have hybrid, right? You have a smaller team. Ian, how are you building culture and innovation in a fully remote environment?
Okay, so some context. So I started my creative agency 11 years ago, and I made so many bad decisions. Like, I got a big client, I started hiring people, I didn't understand culture, I almost blew my company up just from all these terrible decisions, and so I learned how important all those cliches are. Same about parenting, same about growing a company, they're all true. And so with the cereal, we've done a really good job of making sure it's all culture fit more than anything. I mean, you have to be qualified, but like if we don't want to hang virtually or in person, it's a no. And so what I did was, at least what we do in practice, we get together, we take the company on cool trips, but like literally we have what's called a weekly team hang, and just bullshit and talk and be creative, and we're wind up talking all the time, so I don't feel we're like too disconnected, but ultimately making sure we're enjoying and hanging and not everything so agenda driven.
Does innovation exist in one person in your company, or is it kind of spread out across multiple organizations?
I can start. So I'll say we do, what I love about the founder, she's still heavily involved. So she actually serves not only as our CEO, but our Chief Innovation Officer, which I think is important. Like, it's a woman that started this company because of the issues that she was having. And again, like, I worked on launching the innovation that we had earlier in April when she was in the room, in the meetings, had to have final say. So on, and I don't want to say final, like she has to agree with everything, but that's just how involved she is. We do have an innovation team, but I think what we are finding, especially as we think about innovating process and things of that nature, it's a lot of hand in hand of like brand management, which is where I sit, as well as our innovation team. As well as our R&D team, because R&D, like, they understand what are the new things that are going on, and they understand it at a technical standpoint. Our innovation team can come in and say, okay, well, this is what we think makes sense for the consumer, what they're looking for, and then from a brand standpoint, we can come in and say, okay, as we think about strategically growing the company or the business or the brand, this is kind of the lens that we put on. So I'll say while we do have, like, that structure, it takes all of us to kind of weigh in and kind of bring our perspective, so.
Yeah, I would say we're the same. I mean, like I said, team of 6, so I wouldn't want to put that all in one person. A lot of it comes from marketing and what I'm finding, the trends, but also from our head of sales. Our founder is extremely well connected, and so even with her connections, like I said, those partnerships, I think we're very, like, just going back to culture too, we've done a really good job of making sure everybody feels part of the team and doing brainstorms, and I feel like everybody's part of we all have to be all in before a new flavor is announced. And even right now when we go through certain price pack architecture and figuring out different sizes as we, trying to get into different stores, that innovation has to come from every side of the business. And so that's been interesting to see as different people own different parts of it.
All 3 of you guys are in kind of the growth and up-and-coming challenger brand awareness brands, right? But Ian, you've worked with large clients at the agency. Crystal, you have a background in P&G. Is it easier to innovate at smaller companies or larger companies?
I'll say it's easier because you can get to market faster. And I think as you have just Generation Z coming in, that instant gratification, I appreciate the fastness of being able to innovate in a smaller company. I will say the processes of places like P&G and Coca-Cola make it a lot easier because you kind of just know what to do. Everyone kind of understands the role and their input that they play. And in a smaller company, you don't normally have that because, again, the processes are new. You're trying to fumble to get to the finish line, but you can at least get there faster.
I'll say on the fastness, I mean, we didn't have a flavor fully through R&D and told a retailer we did, and so we came out with it in 2.5 months. And so like that, I come from advertising background, but that would have not happened with one of our other brands. So that was extremely hard, and yes, there was a ton of hiccups because there was not a beautiful process in place, but everybody was hands on deck, and we got it done. And I don't think you could ever do that without being in a startup.
So we're going to talk about the modern shopper, right? Whether it is Gen Z, Gen Alpha, I don't even know if there's another person who's on the stage, right? What are you guys seeing that these younger generations want that is different from kind of the elder millennials or the Gen X and boomers?
I don't know. I think it's like there's a whole zeitgeist and culture that's changing. I'd say the millennials are part of it because they're parents, and that's when you start to really scrutinize dyes and ingredients and all that stuff. And then everyone's just more educated. So I'd say like the millennials, the break for us. And we still ultimately, like, we want to be for everyone, but it's impossible to target everyone, or it's not impossible. We don't have the pockets to do that. So we try to be very laser focused on 3 constituencies. It's millennial moms with kids in the house, anyone who lives wellness, and then anyone who has like a need like a celiac or you know, diabetes, anything like that. That's sort of the people that we try to focus on.
How have those moms reacted to the tasting naughty when you're trying to get them to have your cereal?
Well, as I said, I should never use that word again. So we're so innovative. That's less than 24 hours. That word is dead.
You're testing.
Which is fine. I love, like, and by the way, the best thing about advertising as a background is you learn like everything dies. You know, I remember my first mentor at Gray Advertising told me like 95% of your work dies. I'm like, oh, all right, you know. So I don't mind any of that. I forgot the question. What was your thing? Oh, how did the moms react? They love it. I mean, that's the whole thing, the whole pitch we want. Even when we talk to an influencer, or they say it naturally, we're like, it's just like, I feel it's healthy for me, and it tastes like, and they actually will eat it. I remember we just launched right before the pandemic. I would stand in stores, just, you know, selling hundreds of boxes at like a local grocery store. And the moms would say to the kids, will you really eat this? Because our price is like $5.99. Before inflation, it was, now we're $6.99, we were $5.99. And that's a lot of money for people when cereal used to be really cheap. And no one wants to spend money on their kids if they're not going to eat it. And so that was the question, like, will you really eat this thing? Because they'll spend more if they will eat it. And that's the thing. So I'm thinking of a campaign trying to debate, is it for kids or adults? And it's for both, kind of.
And what I'll add to what you're saying is, like, I think the honesty, and that's what I love about, like, how generations have changed, how even if you move forward with Naughty, I think continue to try it out. That's what I'll say. Because for the Honey Pot Company, we are the #1 followed brand on Instagram, and we are very honest in conversations when it comes to feminine care. And I think this is the first time over the last few years that the Generation Z will be honest about how they feel, how your period makes you feel, what you don't want to do, you know, like all of those feelings. So I think it's the honesty of just the newer generation. And I think that also, to your point, when you talk about the millennial moms, it unlocks for millennial moms the ability to say, oh, I also can be honest, and I can voice these things, and I can do the things. So I say keep trying out the Naughty tagline.
Well, it's especially true in your sector. Like, if you know Frida, the other kind of brand that does, like, they go there, like, they take really taboo things and lay it out in the open, and that makes for a lot of earned media and conversation.
Yeah, I feel like we're very similar in a lot of our segments, but what's interesting about Daily Crunch, all of the surveys we've been doing, is we have these millennial moms, but they're buying for themselves and they're hiding it in their pantry from their spouses, from their kids, and everything. Like, it is their indulgent treat. So it's like, lean into that or open up and be like, it can also be for your kids or whatever it is. But it's interesting I feel like the more I've been talking to, I am not a mother, but a lot of my friends are millennial mothers, and talking to them, a lot of it is marketed towards their family, and they're like, I used to be marketed for myself and what I want to eat, what I want to indulge in. And so, you know, that's what we're debating a lot right now, is do we lean into that indulgence? And this is a higher end product. I mean, it's nuts. People are expecting to already spend some, but we are premium. So really leaning into, you know, why is it a premium? And it's clean ingredients, so we hit all aspects of that. But it's just interesting of the mindset, I think, with targeting mothers for different points.
Yeah. These are all really good examples of, like, good consumer insights that led to a change or an impact to your product strategy. I think everyone in this room knows that consumers just talk a lot, and sometimes they say some pretty stupid stuff. So when do you decide to listen to customer feedback, and when do you decide not to act on it?
We listen when it's something that's within our control. You know, if someone has a fundamental issue with our brand, or they don't like natural flavors, I mean, those are just things that are part of our product, and there's trolls everywhere. And then if someone's like, I tasted it got crunchier, or something happened, it's like reaffirming a batch that came out or something like that. So yeah, that's sort of it. But fundamental brand issues, find another brand.
Yeah, I think that happened a lot more at the beginning. Just, you know, with working with a founder-led company, it's their baby. I know I'm sitting next to a founder. But sometimes it can be a little reactionary when you're first starting out, of a customer saying something about a batch or a flavor, and you want to listen to your customers, but at what point do you need to take a step back and listen to how many are saying it? So we now have more process in place of, you know, always grabbing the lot number, always understanding where it was, where it came from, the amount of people that are saying certain things, because we are, once again, smaller teams, so quality control is one of our priorities, but sometimes there's things that might get through on, like, a crunchy is what we stand on, and if something's less crunchy, we've found certain things through the process and things like that. So understanding how many people are saying it and when, and having those processes in place to not be too reactionary.
Yeah.
I'll give one fun example right now. So we hired someone, as we're building our team, we added about a year ago a full-time social media influencer person, and now we brought in full-time original content person who's making stuff. And she understands TikTok better than any of us, and she's grown her own personal brand. And she's like, we need to like spike growth here. So we're using our 8-year-old son and pimping him out on TikTok. And he's like, if you help this account get 100,000 followers, my parents will take me to the NBA finals. And he loves it. He's a ham, and it's going great. And we have people commenting like, you're using your kid in this. You're like, oh, he loves it. Who cares? Like, and so this is the sort of thing. He's enjoying it. We don't mind exploiting him. And, you know.
It's about time he did something
Right.
for us.
And so like, thank you. Don't put your kids on TikTok, but I'll put mine on. Thank you.
Come on, I've used my kid to go see the pilot before. Like, I get it. It's the beauty of having kids, right? You guys all talked about how the innovation faster, right? Like, that's what really works for working in a smaller company. Can you share an example of when you had to like pivot or change last minute, like on a particular campaign or product launch?
I can give a quick example about that. One we came out with in 2.5 months is the name change. So there was not enough time to test out with the consumers of how spicy it was, and it is now sweet and spicy Sichuan, but it was sweet Sichuan when it was first launched. And we just didn't have enough time to really do enough customer surveys and asking and doing those testing. And so just with that little switch, we had to print bags and change things within a week of launch, which was really fun. But it helped. It definitely helped with sales of just waiting for those customers to come back and be like, it's a level 6 or 7 spice, and there's no spicy. And because we assumed people knew what Sichuan meant, or the flavor of Sichuan, and after the surveys we realized that was not true. So.
I'll say for me, it's probably a product that is currently in market, and it's not a category that I own, but we have vulva creams as well. And with all the conversation happening with perimenopause, Oprah endorsed one of our vulva creams as it relates to perimenopause. And so that's one of the products that we have currently in market. We're leveraging it, of course, for that particular benefit. But one of the things we're doing in the back end to kind of move faster is to re-skin that next year. So that way it speaks specifically to that benefit, kind of hearing what the consumer says, but essentially moving fast to make changes when you realize, like, hey, there's some other benefits that maybe we didn't initially launch with when we came out with the product.
I talked about it a little bit this morning, right? Change is the hardest thing for anybody, even as marketers, right? Like, oh, we've always done it that way. I'm sure we've all heard that sometime in our company. But if we always do it that way, we're never going to grow. What's one thing that you guys have implemented, whether it's a process change or something you do personally that just helps you get out of your own way?
I mean, mine is
Perfect.
I could say this as I came from a creative agency. I was not on the creative side, but I always, in that role, I was a producer, and I was considered the dream killer because I had to keep us in scope and budget and everything. But I loved getting into the creative brainstorms, and so now I do that now, even though I'm very analytical, very process, but working with our social person and really getting in the creative brainstorms and taking off that dream killer hat of, how much is this going to cost? Is it actually worth it? I think I don't know if that really answers your question, but that helps me as a marketer of exploring creatively and getting out of the box that we're always in all the time.
My wife's the CEO, and when we do these things, I bring all the ideas, and she loves to kill them. And I said, you gotta speak last, because once you kill the ideas, then let I don't mind if they get killed, but please let everyone else feel like you're so quickly to kill things, and it's just not.
Sounds like a healthy relationship.
It's a lot. But people want to feel, especially like there's not many technically creative people in the company that come from that background. So when they throw out an idea, you gotta, And so she's like, all right, fine, and it's like wait till the end or say it, but make a safe space for people to brainstorm. It doesn't. We ultimately decide what we want to do, but it's it's tough because it was just us, and then you add people, so you're so used to it now. You're 11 people, and it's just like let it breathe.
Well, and also I feel like if you kill it too soon, the ideas that bounce off of other people's ideas, that's what I learned is like if I keep my mouth shut, something I don't have to kill comes up.
So it's funny you say that, right? So I had this idea. One, our cereal's our big product, but we've got granola bars and this. I'm like, oh, what if we open a bar? This is the fake headline. And we partner. We just do a happy hour along 2nd Avenue in New York, and we put signage up, and we have a bar, and we have some influencers come. Now, I'm like, okay. But a lot of the team liked it. They're all girls. They thought it was cute. And then eventually we got to something else, and we're gonna do a bar crawl or something. But like you had to let it go for a second. I agree. And then once there's an interesting idea out there, it gets batted around, and then all of a sudden. And by the way, everyone loves to feel like they touched it. They were a part of it, and that's the best because I can't touch supply chain, and we can't touch this. So marketing's the fun thing that everyone gets to participate in and have a valid opinion on.
Between feminine care products, snacks, cereal, I mean, y'all are in a crowded market, right? Consumers have dozens of options to choose from. So how are you staying relevant? How are you trying to kind of stick out from everybody else?
I think the biggest thing for us, at least currently, is our social media. So again, #1 followed feminine care brand on social media. We are very honest, very funny in how we communicate the brand from that standpoint. But I also think the thing, and you may could tell from my question earlier, but we're getting ready for a campaign to like launch and build awareness even more for the brand. So that's one of the places where we want to say, okay, how do we come and do this in a way that only the Honey Pot Company can show up? And that's being honest, talking about the fact that we are better for you, and again, the only company that can put herbs in your pads, type of thing. So it's essentially just leaning in on that standpoint and just building that awareness for the brand so that people know about us more.
Yeah, I think the one thing we have and that we're leaning in more into is behind the scenes. So if we're competing against these, I know there's planners here, but planners and Blue Diamonds of the world is we have this small team. We are founder-led. We are scrappy. And so showing that more in social or email marketing or whatever it is has been helpful for us to have more connection to the brand, and people feel like they're helping. I call it the Belieber effect. Of people feel like they found Bieber. So I want people to feel like they found Daily Crunch and are helping us grow by telling all their friends and everything about it. So I think that's one thing that's really helped us is showcasing Laurel, our founder, and showing the behind the scenes of us working really hard to get this brand out there.
Yeah. Is there a particular channel or recent partnership or tactic, right? Fill in the blank with whatever you choose that has really helped you punch above your weight?
I will say for sure, and before I answer that question, but I think education too is another piece where we kind of lean in and play where conventional brands don't. So we're really big on educating about women's bodies. But we actually partner with the Atlanta Dream, which is a WNBA team. And I think the first year we partnered with them was like a year or two ago, and it was kind of right at that cusp of like WNBA becoming super important, people kind of leaning into it. So it was nice to be one of the first people to kind of lean into supporting and partnering with the WNBA team. And now that it's continuing to grow, it allows us to show up bigger and better, and I think even more authentically than like other brands can. And then of course just partnering with them to create content. They like show it live on the things that they're doing. We have a display in their locker room showing up on like the screens inside the arena. So that's a good place to kind of lean in. And when there is that conversation around WNBA, we can be a part of those conversations because we were one of the first kind of partnerships that a WNBA team kind of leaned into. So.
Could you prompt the question. I was so listening to that, I forgot how we get there. They're all sort of generalish, you know, so.
What's something that you've done recently that you felt like you punched above your weight on?
So kind of like the Liquid Death guy, like that's my background, is like trying to come up with virally stunts and have them go. So one of the ones we did, we slightly updated our packaging, and there's like no news, who cares? You slightly updated your packaging. Like that's not, there's no headlines to be gotten there. But I was on TikTok. Have you guys ever seen the plastic surgeons, and they do this like green screen? They're like, I didn't do the work, but you know, this Kardashian, I think, had this done and this done. So I reached out to all the top plastic surgeons and said, would you do a review of our packaging facelift?
I love that.
And I got like Dr. Diamond and like all like millions, and they could charge nothing because they have to make content, and like it's not like a skincare product. And so they would do the before and after, like the logo is droopy and now it's tight and snatched.
Oh my God, that's rich.
And so I just try to take every moment and try to make it newsworthy, but then I had one that didn't work.
Yeah.
So I was saying I have like 11 people at the company, I'm the only guy, and we were launching our bars, and they're kind of like a Quaker Chewy bar. And I'm like, oh, the Quaker bar is like an old white guy, and I've got all young women. I bought the website quakeher.com.
Oh God.
And then I got these, like, we went on a company retreat to Montana, and I got everyone like old school Quaker outfits and tried to do all this content, and just didn't work.
Team bonding, though.
I tried, you know, like, and then if you go to Quaker.com, it redirected you to Target.com/3wishes, because that's where we launched our bars exclusively. But yeah, the campaign just didn't go.
Yeah, maybe not do that motion when you're talking about
I realize,
Quaker.
yes, I meant.
It's the naughty brand. I'm gonna stop.
It was like it was meant to be that.
Ian,
you know?
I'm cutting you off. Can you cut his mic? I could keep you guys up here all day. We're gonna go to audience Q&A. Anyone have any questions for our panelists? I see one right back there.
Hey everyone, I'm Sally Barton. I work at Mondelez, and I have a question about how you sustain growth with innovation, because I think when you launch something at a big organization, you know, with an existing established brand, you know, you launch it, and then hopefully the halo of the brand kind of continues to drive that growth. But when you launch something at a newer brand, how do you sustain that growth? How do you ensure that you don't launch and leave, but you launch and continue to nurture the growth of innovation?
I'll say for us, I think one thing that's to our benefit is, going back to kind of listening to consumers, our initial pads with herbs are spicy. So you get kind of like that cooling effect in your vulva region. The herbs that we just launched recently don't have that cooling sensation. So I think we have the benefit of where it's different enough from our cooling. It gives a benefit that consumers were kind of seeking if you didn't like that cooling sensation. But I also will say that now we've looked at the budget, the investment budget, and say, hey, not only are we building like awareness and conversion for one herbal product, but we're building it for 2 herbal products. So how then do we say a percentage of this budget always goes to like that new innovation, of course still protecting the base of our business and just kind of making strategic decisions like that.
Yeah, and for us, when it comes to innovation, it's definitely leading to growth because it's opening up those new retail doors, especially if we come up with the exclusive, or as we work on different pack sizes for club or whatever it is. But then a lot for us is we have 7 flavors right now, and introducing LTOs and all this is. So at some retailers, we only have 3 flavors, so it's helping our growth of them going and trying to find more of them, may it be online or Amazon or in another store. So that's how we kind of have been viewing innovation, as it's drawing in a new audience as they taste our other products as well.
We got one right here.
Hey, my name is Wakas from Sense Tower. I had a quick question tagging on from Erin. How do you guys decide between being innovative, launching a new campaign, whatever it might be, whether it's product or media, and then mimicking those larger brands that obviously have a lot of data and a lot of their decisions are data-driven?
I mean, we're watching them all the time. And so I think from what you're saying is we see what they're doing right, and how can we tweak it a little bit to make it our own and our own brand. I mean, we're always watching the larger brands because we are a tiny, tiny company with very little data, and so we know that they're doing something right for a good reason. So yeah, I think how we approach it is we're always watching what they're doing, but making sure that we're staying true to ourselves, because at the very beginning, I think I called it a Frankenstein's monster of trying to be like a lot of either emerging brands or brands in our space, and we couldn't find our true selves, and that was not going to stand out in the market. So once again, I think it's a combination of watching what they're doing, understanding why they're doing it, but having our own brand on top of it.
Crystal, Kenzie, Ian, thank you guys so much for the discussion this morning.